Hey guys, my name is RyanCentral and welcome to a brand new YouTube channel. As somebody that's done YouTube for 5 years, it's always weird starting out with this first video, but this has been the hardest video for me to make, and I don't mean that in like a terrible apology video kind of way. It's more the fact that I started making this video at 3 o'clock and it's currently 8 p.m. I have been really struggling to get this intro out, so let's get the important stuff out the way. My name is RyanCentral. I'm a YouTuber on the channel HitScan. That's been my full-time job for 5 years. But as well as being a YouTuber that makes Valorant content, I also cast and commentate a lot of Valorant, specifically in Europe, but I've done North America, I've done Southeast Asia, but Europe is definitely where my bread is buttered. And 2021 is going to be a crazy year for Valorant esports. We're going to be seeing a global tournament with the Champions Circuit, and we will see NA versus EU, EU versus Brazil, Korea versus North America, those kind of things. And as somebody that's been following the European scene since day one, I kind of want to like share my knowledge and passion for the region with you guys that might not know as much about it, because not only do we not get to see some of the games in Europe because these games aren't broadcasted in like First Strike, for example, but there's plenty of movements happening at the moment. You look at Reddit, you've got Need More DM, Vitality, G2, FPX, all making moves. So I wanted to make a YouTube channel just to get everybody clued up on the general gist of some of these players. So if you're interested in stuff like that, we will have European power rankings coming soon, for example. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. But this video specifically, I want to talk about FPX and their new signing Dimasick. There's a lot of really interesting stuff here, but the main thing about this move isn't actually anything to do with Dimasick. It's more so FPX dropping Meadow and the reasons for that, which we actually do have a bit more information about at this time. Meadow is one of the most consistent, one of the best ciphers in Europe, and it was a real surprise to see him dropped after First Strike from FunPlus Phoenix. First Strike wasn't a great tournament for FPX. They went out in the semi-finals against Summon FC, a relatively unknown team, if you could even call them that, but Summon are great. It was a really good series, but it's fair to say that Bind, especially the final map out of the 3 maps played, FPX did not look as good as we're used to seeing, and it was a bit of a weird blip from them. But I would personally assume that it was just a blip, and that kind of thing doesn't happen very often. It hasn't happened so far. But then seeing Meadow being dropped after this, a lot of people were left scratching their heads. Quite rightly so, because the move didn't make much sense. But one thing that flew under the radar around the time that Meadow was dropped was the reasoning behind it. And this came from Pekka, the GM, and it came from a Spike.gg article right at the bottom. So I think a lot of people missed it. The general gist, to go over it very quickly, is that it had nothing to do with First Strike. They've wanted to do this for quite some time, and they actually wanted to change their play style, and Meadow as a player is just not the best fit for their long-term strategy. The issue generally is that even Pekka says that Meadow is one of the best Cypher players in Europe. Yeah, we've said that, so why are you dropping in then? And we can actually sort of look at the stats to work it out. The issue is that you can't necessarily compare Meadow to Dimasick when it comes to the stats. Not only did they play different regions, it's fair to say that Europe's First Strike was a lot more competitive than the CIS region's First Strike where Dimasick played, but also Dimasick, for his team, Team FX, or One Breath Gaming as they got picked up, they had him on Raze and Reyna. You can't compare a Cypher's stats to a Raze or a Reyna, right? The ADR is going to be very different. The general role that you play within a team dictates the stats, right? You're going to have more deaths if you play an entry. That's just naturally how it goes. So it's really difficult to compare those two players. So I actually want to compare Meadow with another Sentinel player within Europe, that being Pora from Team Heretics. And there's a real reason why, and it shows the pitfalls, I suppose, in Meadow's playstyle that don't fit FPX anymore, that Dimasick is looking to rectify at least. So these are just the stats from VLR.gg. It's just a comparison between Meadow and Pora. All of the rounds that they've played, you can see that Pora's played almost 4 times as much because of all of the Spanish circuit tournaments that Pora's been playing in over the past 60 days. But you look at the stats, and Meadow looks pretty good to begin with. You've got a better KD for Meadow, 1.37 compared to 1.1. Better kills per round, only just, as you can see. And the ADR is actually very similar between the two players. So what's the difference between Meadow and Pora? Where does the playstyle differ? You can't really tell with stats, but there is one that kind of gives you a good indication, as well as something else that I want to show in a second. That is first kills per round versus first deaths per round. And it's really interesting when you look at the numbers, because Meadow's first kills and first deaths per round are exactly the same, 0.04. It's the same actually for Pora. His first kills and first deaths per round is the same number, 0.14 instead. So this is how it looks, but this is how it generally plays out. Low risk with Meadow's first deaths, but low reward with the first kills. Pora, high risk, high reward. And I feel that this is the general gist of what FPX is looking for and what they're looking to get out of Dimasick. And it's actually something super interesting that I can show you. We don't get to see perspectives of players. We don't have a replay viewer, for example, but we do have this. This came from Run It Back, the website. They've had access to the API. They've let me have a gander with it, mess about with it a little bit. And these are the stats for Meadow, his movement, where he typically is on the map in the first 30 seconds of an attacking round on Haven. And it's effectively a heat map. You can see roughly where he likes to play. He's going to be in window a lot, watching this angle or watching here. He's going to be in A lobby. He's going to be in A short. He's going to be sort of brushing down C main. No doubt there's going to be a smoke in this position right here, for example. This is fairly standard. It doesn't look too bad. You got to bear in mind that FPX have not been playing that much over the past 60 days. It's just been first strike. And for the most part, they've breezed their way through qualifiers. But also that this is a team that likes to play slow. Of course, Meadow's not going to be going very far in the first 30 seconds because FPX play mid to late round with their executes. But the interesting thing is when you compare Meadow's positions on the map in the first 30 seconds to Pora's. Pora is like a rash across this map. Look at all of the crazy positions that he finds himself in. Again, he's played it more than Meadow has. Pora's been playing a lot more Haven, a lot more Valorant generally than Meadow when it comes to official games that we can track. And Heretics are a bit more aggressive. Will play slow, a bit like FPX, but will also mix it up with some faster play. And this is the thing that FPX are looking to work on in the future. They want a Sentinel player like Pora that is much more aggressive, much more proactive in their approach. You will see these Sentinel Cypher players more often than not playing on their own. They will be lurking in positions, and it's a real difference between lurking playstyles. For example, if we go back to Meadow, Meadow might be stood here on A lobby waiting for a defender to push out here to see if there's anybody in A lobby, or to maybe push all the way down where my cursor is to go beyond and do this. So Meadow will sit here relatively passively is the key word, just to see what he can grab. It'll be the same here. He will be in this position, be a nuisance, and it forces the defenders playing in this spot to actually stay where they are. They can't give up that site for nothing. But Pora is all over the place. He's going through windows. He's going all the way to Gong on the B site with a fast B execute. He is everywhere on the map. He's making it his own. And when you look at the amount of first kills that he gets, he is making plays, which is something, unfortunately, the Meadow just doesn't do as much. Is this a deal breaker for Meadow in the future? Absolutely not. That passive playstyle fits a lot of teams, but clearly it doesn't fit FPX anymore. So now that we have that, what are Dimasick stats like? Bear in mind that Dimasick over the past 60 days has been playing a lot of Raze and Reyna. Like his ADR is much higher for that reason, for example. But he does have high first kills and high first deaths. And whilst he is more of a liability, perhaps, than Meadow is from dying early in a round, but it also means he is more likely to set up plays. FPX are wanting to go for a more aggressive, more high-risk play style, and they can't do that with Meadow because he doesn't fit that play style. He's much more passive, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but FPX and Angel specifically are looking to take this in another direction. Another key thing is also the country that Dimasick is from. He's from Kazakhstan, which is a CIS region, and if you had this team, like even if I type it out, so you've got Angel, you've got Shao, you've got Zipan, and you've got Shadow. You've got a CIS player here, you've got a CIS player there, you've got a European with Zipan, European with Shadow. Before with Meadow, It used to be EU. And that's important because First Strike, you need to have the majority of your players from one region. So this team with these players can play in First Strike Europe, right? Does that make sense? If you change out Meadow for Dimasick, at least for 2020, I almost forgot what year it was then, if you had this team, they would have had to play in the CIS region, which had a smaller prize pool, much worse viewership. And you even saw teams like Gambit from the CIS region and BBL from Turkey begging Riot to be a part of the biggest European First Strike. In 2021, Europe includes everybody. CIS, Turkey, the Middle East, North Africa, India. That is one region and one set of qualifiers that all those teams have to go through. So it doesn't matter if this whole team is from Russia or any of the CIS regions. They can still play up against G2. They can still play up against Team Liquid. There might be different geographic qualifiers because it's going to be difficult to have a player from Russia go up against somebody, I don't know, in North Africa. The ping would be insane, right? So maybe that's a logistical nightmare that Riot need to solve, but it's a smart move from Angel that is picking up some of this CIS talent that is not going to go for a low offer. Really good interview from Angel with Immortal Minds where he spoke to teams like Na'Vi in the CIS region that did give them potential offers, but the budget that they had was so low in comparison to FPX because FPX wanted to have a strong European team. So now he can cherry pick some of that CIS talent and really bring them in with better offers that some of these CIS teams like Gambit, like Na'Vi, won't be able to offer. So there's a lot of really interesting things that FPX are putting together, but make no mistake, this is a super smart move from Angel. And this is him putting together his dream roster. It wouldn't surprise me if in like 6 months' time, it's 4 Russian players or 4 CIS players, sorry, because I forget that there's Ukrainians in this roster, with Zipan, right? Like that's what the direction of the team feels to be going. But Dimasick is a really good player. It's a difficult one because we haven't seen him on Cypher in quite some time, but he is much more aggressive. He's much more proactive. And he can make plays even from seemingly nothing. So I'm really excited to see this guy play. Again, nothing against Meadow. I think he's great, but that's the reason why he was pretty much dropped and why Dimasick has come in his stead and what they're expecting of this player either. You've also got to bear in mind that Yoru is coming into the game, and with Riot and the meta and the way that they balance and change and nerf certain agents, you can't just be a Cypher player anymore. Meadow was flexible enough to play Killjoy and even Reyna in one occasion, but when it comes to flexibility, Dimasick is a whole lot more. He went from playing a Sentinel agent to being the entry fragger for a team in CIS First Strike and doing relatively well. He top fragged all of his games. This guy is a talent, and I'm really excited to see him play with this FPX team, but there's plenty more roster moves coming, so if you want to get my opinion on, say, Zeke potentially going to G2, the new Need More DM, the new Vitality, the new Entropic, all of this stuff happening today, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. I'd appreciate it, and it's nice to actually grow something from scratch again. So until next time, bye-bye.